Thank you for watching, liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing right now.
What really surprised me here, and I love it, is how many people that look like they're at least approaching my age that are here. I didn't expect so many. And which, by the way, I'm 66. On my weblog, everybody says how old they are. There are 35 million people in the United States who are 65 and older. And by 2030, that will double. There will be 70 million. But we're the forgotten technology generation. People either don't know or don't pay attention to what elders need to be able to easily use computers and the internet. So today I'm going to actually show you, you're going to be able to see and feel for yourself what old people are up against when they try to use a computer or try to see what's on a screen. I'm going to tell you why it's crucial that we fix this, and I'm going to ask you guys to help of how we can do it. I've got two volunteers that are going to come up here and help me show you what I'm talking about. Ariel was the other one. While they're getting settled, Chris asked me to tell you, what did you ask me to tell them, Chris? I'm going to tell you this story. I've forgotten what the question was. When I was young, in my 20s and teens, I was always the youngest kid in the crowd. All my friends were older than I was, and life goes on. And my 20s went by, and my 30s went by, and my 40s went by. And all that time I was working in television, traveling a lot, and never paid attention to how old I was. Then in 1995, when the commercial internet was just beginning, I got really lucky and got hired as the first managing editor at CBSNews.com. And because CBS News at that time didn't think the internet was very important, they threw $1 million or $2 at us and said, go work over here. It was an old film projection room, so we had a raised area up here, and everybody else sat there. And my seat was up on the dais. And I needed to talk to a writer one day. And I looked up and looked around the room, and there were all the writers and the editors and the designers and the HTML jockeys and all. And I'm looking around for the writer I want, and it suddenly struck me. I went, holy shit, excuse me, but my God, I am the oldest person in this room, not by a few years, by decades. And I never thought of myself as old. I was 55 at the time. So I was so shocked to be the oldest person in the room, I started, in my spare time, researching what aging is all about. What is it going to be like to get old? And all I could find in all the popular literature, scientific research, scholarly stuff, anything I could find was about decline, debility, and disease, and eventually death. And my God, and this is in like Red Book magazine, even things like that, and they've been going on for years. So I thought, if it's that bad, I might as well shoot myself right now. And I kept doing this, and I kept reading, I kept looking for the good stuff. Same time, I'm doing internet, and this blogging thing came along, and a few years later, I've got this massive amount of material piled up in my house and nowhere to put it, so I thought, I'll do a blog about it. At least I'll get it organized. Not too many people will read it. But I'm really gratified that a lot of people read it. And what I didn't know would happen over time, and I didn't see it coming, is that I would become an advocate for elders. So first, we're going to show you a little bit about what it's like for people when they get old. Let's give you these gardening gloves. And I'm going to give you these gardening gloves. And try not to touch the lenses on this. These are homemade, so just the edges of them. And the same thing, let's give you one of these. Make sure it's like it should be. And I've got more we can pass out if you would share with each other. If somebody could come pass these out. Thank you. And you can do this with one glove. You don't have to use both of them so that more people can do this. And when you're done, pass them around. Okay. What I would like you to do first, pardon me? Don't touch the lenses because that stuff will come off. Can someone tell me why I don't have a cursor? Or why it's not working? Oh, here it goes. I can do it this way. Would you two on the stage, Rains and Ariel, Come on. Do you have any idea why I can't get this other browser open? Well, the title bar as time goes by. What I want you to go to is the individualvoice.blogspot.com. No, put the gloves on and the glasses on. Oh, you have to I don't know if it'll work with your glasses. And I want you to type in on the browser to highlight what's in there. And I want you to type in, what did I say? I've forgotten the name of it.
What's the website you wanted to drive to?
It's theindividualvoice.blogspot.com. Does anybody else want to try this with glasses? No? Okay. Can anybody help me get this up on my screen? Okay. Yes. How'd you do? Pull this on, you can try. These are from a kit that teachers use to teach small children a little bit about what it's like to get old. And what the glasses represent are the less light that comes into old people's eyes. And it's not about cataracts or disease, it's normal aging. And what the gloves represent is as we get older, we lose feeling in our hands, we lose some of our motor skills, and sometimes there are other diseases that make using your hands difficult, a palsy of some kind. What happened with you, Rains?
Must be a typo somewhere.
It's THE. Individual voice. .blogspot.com. So tell us what your trouble was. No, I mean in using the gloves. Did you have any problems with that?
Hard to get individual keys and the trackpad wasn't so responsive.
That's probably the gloves and not a finger. I mean, this is not an exact simulation. And what about you, Ariel? You can't move your mouse. Well, take one glove off. And how was it typing it? Huh? Eventually. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot it. How about you, Ariel? Okay, and what about seeing through the glasses? Which you almost are. Try reading me the first sentence under plagiarizing blog rolls. And,
That's so.
all right. Maybe, yes. Go ahead. Can you read it?
I spent a few more hours yesterday and today.
How is it reading it?
It blurry.
Pardon me?
Difficult, blurry.
Now look at the right sidebar. Is that any easier or any harder?
Harder. With the colors and the size and type. It's difficult.
That's true. Now, can you, with your gloves on, see if you can close this website? Well, we have the problem because you don't have because they're loose. But when little kids do this, they're not using computers, and I had to adapt this.
Yeah.
How about you, Ariel?
Luckily, I have Apple Q.
Okay. Okay. I mean, this is a simulation, and it's not meant to be perfect. The idea is that as you get older, it's very hard to use a computer. There's certain things that are well known. When your eyes get older, you have a lot. This is the worst kind of website, I think, even for young people. White text on black background just doesn't work. Also, elders have trouble when they're close together seeing red and orange, making a distinction, or green and blue. And you know those little CAPTCHA things, especially on TypePad, that's a black text on a gray messed up background. I can't even do them. They're impossible. I've written to TypePad endlessly, and they just send me nice, polite thank you for your suggestion things, and they never do anything. This has been going on for 2 years. You can go back to your seats if you'd like. I love your hat. And, so there are a lot of what we need to make both computers, hardware and software, more easily acceptable. Only 35% of people 65 are online. However, they are the fastest growing age segment of the population online. But as I said, there's only 35,000 of them so far. This is going to become critical as the baby boomers get older. Right now, there are no more than 9,000 geriatricians in the United States, and we lose a few hundred every year. The reason for that is medical schools don't have enough chairs in their specialties for plastic surgeons, people who want to do plastic surgery, and nobody wants to be a geriatrician because that's boring. But because we have so few of them, and all these baby boomers are getting older, how are we going to take care of them? There are many things that ordinary physicians don't know in how to take care of elders. And if we could get enough elders online and come up with the hardware and easy software, we could monitor their heart rate, pulse, temperature, blood glucose, respiration, blood pressure, and other vital signs over the internet, meaning they don't have to go to the doctor as often. They only need to go when these shoot up or down, whichever is wrong, and they don't have to do routine visits to the doctor anymore. But we can't do this unless elders can use the web. So let me look at my notes a little bit. There is some disabled equipment that can be adapted. One in particular is large key keyboards, which if you look around the web for them, they're the same as any other keyboard, except the keys are very big. But they're not marketed well. They are really expensive, from $50 to $180. Come on, it's a little more plastic. And I don't know why they have to be that expensive. We need technology that suits the needs of the elders, and it's just not being served. Sometimes it's ageism. Have you seen the ads for the Jitterbug phone? You know what I'm talking about? With the great big numbers, and all it is a telephone. It's perfect for elders who don't want a text message. They just want to call their kids or their grandchildren or something. It's being marketed pretty well here. There's a similar one from a company called Emporia Life in Europe, but no mobile carrier will take it in England because they don't want to be seen as interacting with the elder audience. So there's a little ageism involved. I'm pretty amazed at the old people who read my blog and have become friends. Many of them have taught themselves how to use a computer all by yourself. Many people 65 and older never used a computer at work. So they're coming at it for the first time ever. Sometimes their adult children have helped, even the grandchildren have helped. But a lot just amaze me at how much they've taught themselves. I usually find out about this when they write to me and want some help starting a blog. And I start them out with the very basics. Here's how you do it. You can go to Blogger, Blogspot, this or that. Some of them can even handle TypePad. And I get them started with a basic little weblog that they've got a banner and they've got all the basics there. The astonishing thing is, 2 or 3 months later, they're coming back and asking me the intricacies of CSS and HTML. They've gone into this all on their own. But they still have problems with the physical end of it and the complexities of computers. Who was it that mentioned earlier Nicholas Negroponte's $100 wind-up computer for kids in third world countries? I don't see why we couldn't use some of that technology to come up with an elder computer that has bigger icons. You need a browser, you need email, you need a simple way to do photos to begin with, and that could later plug in the technology that we'd need for their vital signs, but let them learn a little at a time. The technology for the vital sign monitoring is being done by some researchers. They're working on it, of how it might work. But they're not tech people. We need the tech people in on this. I need you guys out there to look at how elders use a computer. The little thing, the little X up in the corner. I was helping a friend learn a computer, and he doesn't even have an arthritic problem or too much feeling problem, but he had an awful time getting the mouse on that little teeny space you have to click to close down the browser window. There's no reason it can't be bigger. Sorry, I've got to check my notes here. I also wanted to, because this is mostly a blogging group, isn't it? Are we all bloggers here? No? I want to tell you how important blogging is for elders, and how it could be for millions more elders that are using it. Blogging combines the best of active and passive thinking, which helps maintain cognitive abilities and maintain the mental health that may or may not deteriorate. People age at dramatically different rates. Sometimes a 50-year-old can be decrepit mentally or physically, and a 90-year-old is fabulous. And it's just that different. So it's different at different ages for everybody. But this really helps, along with Sudoku and that kind of thing, to help keep people's minds active. The other, and I think most important, is the social interaction. When you leave the workforce, you lose the daily camaraderie that you have with all the people you work with. Families might live far away. Old friends die, and as time goes by, mobility may become an issue. You can't get out of the house as often, as easily. Even so, you should know that 80% of elders live alone, independently, until they die. But we're blogging, these people become friends. They're as close, and you guys must all know this, and connected and caring as face-to-face friends. And it's so important for older people who are often at home living alone. There's a blogger out of Boston. You guys must know who Steve Garfield is. It's his mother, Millie Garfield. She blogs at a place called My Mom's Blog. And I wrote a piece one day on my blog about how important the social aspect of blogging was to elders in particular. And she left a comment, all in caps, giant caps, saying, oh, I'd said, don't tell me you don't check your email and don't check your comments the first thing when you come in from anywhere or get up in the morning. And in giant letters, she said, yes, 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 I always do that first thing. And whenever I do write about the friendship aspect of it, I get 2, 3, 4, 5 times as many comments. People have become such close friends, and it means so much to them. And when your community gets smaller, as happens when you get older, I think that blogging, however it develops into audio and video, as that gets simpler for old people, it's the most important thing I think they could do at home anyway. And so I'm looking for ways, and I'm looking for all your intelligence and thoughts and anybody else I can talk to, of how we can create easier computers, how we can get software, whether it's a separate kind of browser altogether, or somehow making a browser simpler. I'm not a technical person. That will make it easier. The barriers will go down for old people to get into using the internet, computers, and blogging. And this doesn't mean, as the boomers come along, get older, they will already know computers, a lot of them. But they will still have the mobility problems, the hand and eye problems that they don't think so, but they will have them as you get older. So this is going to benefit everybody, even you young people, because one day you're going to get old. And an important thing to remember is that you're going to be older for a lot longer than you're ever going to be young. Life expectancy is about 80 these days, 75 to 80 here. So you're going to be old for a long time, but you're not going to be physically like you are now. So this is important for all of you guys, too. And that's pretty much all I have to say. If we could do some questions. You seem to be first every time. Let's not break a tradition.
So I've been building web browsers for 4
You've been doing
years.
what?
Building web browsers for about 4 years.
Cool.
And,
I need you.
Yeah, well, we did a custom web browser for a specific project one time. Team of 6 people did it in 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can sit down and actually draw a picture, paper or whatever, this is what would have to change. These buttons need to be bigger. The text should be bigger by default. You know, bookmarks are really important. Maybe add more space for bookmarks. Get rid of these things we never use. Whatever it is, you know, let's put a post up that says, hey, Elder Browser is a good idea. Here's what it would need to look like. I know people that would build that.
Let me show you another website that will help you, and I'll give you my card or I'll take yours, and I'd love to talk to you. Can we get this other site up that says Interactive Aging Simulator? I don't know. Computers confuse me, you know. I wish I could see it. It's Interactive Aging Simulator / Carol's Web. Carol's with an S. Yeah, they do. I don't know why my little mousey won't work. How come this freezes? It didn't freeze before. Don't answer that question. Okay. All right, when this loads, and then we need to go to the next page, enter Carol's Web. This is the most fabulous age simulator. You go through each of these things. They've started a web page that's got about everything possible wrong on it for elders. And then you can go through each of the links up above, which will talk you through it and will fix everything as it should be for elders. And I forgot to mention that. Well, we don't need it if we have it up there. Thanks. But I'd be glad to talk to you about it because there's more besides what they have to. Yes?
I just had a question about the universal access preferences that you can find in both Mac and Mac OS and Windows. I know it doesn't solve the
Don't get
the
too
keyboard
technical
size
for me.
problems. Like when you can go in and say like zoom in on things or make things bigger on screen. I've never actually had to use those, but for elders, do you find that those actually help, or are those just tools that actually
Those are
aren't doing
really,
anything?
really distracting, and they don't usually find them. And one of the things that's wrong with them is often, like the little X up in the corner to close the browser, there's not enough space around a link to click on. One of the things that annoys the hell out of me, and certainly all old people I know, is that, what is it called? And Blogspot had it by default, called Snap. And you put your browser, your cursor out, and the damn thing is popping up all over the place. That would, an elder might just shut down the computer and never go back. It's so distracting. Because also your eyes focus more slowly. What really pissed me off is that they made it by default, is what happened. I mean, and nobody knew how to turn it off.
Hi, there's a couple startups out there. One's called
Who's
Presto.
talking? I can't see who's talking.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
Hi.
okay.
How you doing? So there's a couple startups out there. One's called Presto. Another one is called Celery. And what they are essentially, you could just call them fax machines that you can email to. So
Yes.
you can give them to your grandmother
Yes.
or something like that and email them pictures.
Yes.
It's very much a one-way medium. It's not too interactive. How do you feel about these solutions for the elderly that I wouldn't say are really introducing them to the web, but they're at least allowing them to receive as like a stepping stone? Or do you want people, do you want to see more solutions for the elderly that are two-way from the start?
Yes, is the answer to that. But I think that those are okay interim ones if people are moved along to something else. I'm particularly concerned about the health, and there aren't enough doctors to go around. And I'm here to tell you, more things go wrong than you could expect. And I'm pretty healthy, and very little has gone wrong, but it's really irritating, the small things that go wrong. And we all know serious things can. So if we could get enough elders online and get people to develop these, whatever they would need to be, monitors that could transmit all of those life signs to their doctor's offices on a regular basis, they don't have to go in for their blood pressure and their temperature and their glucose readings and all of that sort of thing, freeing up the doctor's office for when something is really serious. But I think as an interim thing, that's a good beginning. I just thought that they weren't that particular one that just prints out email, send a letter. I mean, it doesn't even seem to need to get there that fast. But if it helps, I'm for it.
Hello? Okay.
Yeah.
So I had a question. Regarding some of the new technologies like the new Apple iPhone, Microsoft Surface computer.
Oh dear, you're going to have to explain those.
Okay. They're new touch interfaces.
On the phone?
On the phone, which might be more difficult for the elderly to use. But the Surface computer concept as a whole, I think might actually be a positive experience because it's a large surface, potentially has the ability to expand, and the user interface, at least to my way of thinking, is intuitive, or potentially intuitive. Have you seen that? Have you thought about that as a?
I haven't seen it. One of the things that's important.
That's a live iPhone.
Ooh.
That's my live iPhone.
I've never seen one.
Well, there you go. Don't make any long distance calls.
Oh, this is so cool. Oh, I love this. Have you all seen one? Oh, this does the nicest things. That's really, really simple. That's really simple. The thing about all equipment, all technology for elders is it needs not to do many things. You're not going to find very many people my age and older that want a text message. I got really mad at some website that I forgot my password, and so I told them to send me my password just yesterday. And they text message it to me. I'm going to have to pay 50 cents for that. I don't subscribe to text message. And how dare they? It's not much money, but you know, you're spending my money without asking me. It needs to be very simple. iPhone, I'm not going to go through this whole thing now. Maybe you'll let me play later. But, I mean, what you showed me there, I was selecting
Okay.
programs.
So-
And it was really, really easy. I love this because I think I have a friend who's got, you know, I've got fat, chubby little fingers, but I have a friend who has fingers twice as wide as mine. So, you know, he just sends me endless jokes to keep in touch with me, all of the internet jokes, because to use a keypad, a typewriter, you know, keyboard, he just can't do it. His finger always hits two keys. But this was just very light. You didn't even have to press like you do on that. You should take this. I'm going to drop it, you know.
You get to play with it later.
Okay. Pardon
Oh,
me?
yes. Okay.
Oh,
so
well, what I read, the keyboard isn't
that's
so
okay.
wonderful.
Pretty much. So let's go to pretend to go to a website here and see if you can use that. Go to, well, any website, really.
Oh, I just hit an H, and look what happened. I don't understand how this is.
Okay. This is Apple. This is not,
Well, can't I just type something in? Why do I have to, what is it doing to me?
so you're doing great.
Where's
You're doing better than I am.
Where's the backup?
That's the backup button.
This is hard. And then now see, from what I've read, I can't put the colon in without going to another keyboard, right?
Yeah, you press that button. There you go. Now,
I can't stand it. I would never use it. I'd make a phone call on it. I can't
Live demo.
stand that. I want to type. I can type 120 words a minute on a computer. I have no patience for that. Yes.
Okay, so just first of all, the point about the mobile phones in England, I think is very interesting. The reason, as I understand it, that they were not that they didn't seem to get a lot of traction was that the carriers didn't feel they could make a lot of money out of it because they make a lot of money out of sending text messages. And if you give people phones that they can't text through, they're not going to make any money. For those who know me, I have to be a bit careful because one of my clients is a British mobile phone carrier. And of course was an unofficial, just my own view. But my point is, I should stress, my point is that in order to see a lot more of these features occur and to drive manufacturers and service providers into offering more of these features, I think it's really worth reminding them that they actually can monetize these things. Not everyone, but there are a lot of elders who actually will pay for things, and actually, if there's actually a market reason for actually bringing out a special keyboard or a special browser, etc., that there might actually be a way of doing it. I'd like to see it all free and everything else as well, but I also know that that's often, at the end of the day, one of the things that it comes down to. But I'm interested in what your thoughts are on that.
What you're saying is really important. I think the elder market is lucrative if it were marketed well, and will only get more so. The big large key keyboard that I talked about, not just for my friend with fat fingers, but people who are slower, may not know QWERTY. There's some ABC keyboards with large keys too. They've not been marketed. You have to hunt for them on disabled sites. I don't know that. Jitterbug, it seems, I don't know the numbers. Jitterbug here is doing quite well, it seems to me. And it's only a phone. It doesn't do anything else. The other thing to keep in mind about monetizing all of this is that in the US, I don't know how many in the UK, I don't know those numbers, but there are 35 million people 65 and older now. Many, many more if you back yourself up to 55. I've forgotten the number. And it's only going to swell. As I said, it'll be 70 million in the US by 2030. And besides the keyboards, a simpler computer or simpler software that could come with a computer that is simpler. All of the choices, I mean, I was lucky. For 10 years, I got to work with a whole lot of, sorry about this, kids. I taught them about journalism and judgment and that sort of thing. They taught me HTML and CSS and how to even figure out some of the things that go wrong with my computer. But most elders don't have that advantage. So it needs to be simpler, and I don't know what. I would love to find some people to work with that go back and forth. I could say, here's what I want. Is this possible? How expensive is it? How expensive would it be to manufacture this? How can we get the cost down? And so the market is large.
Because I was talking to the Hewlett-Packard people. They're here doing an exhibition outside and showing me all the keys are going to be great because it's all smaller, et cetera, et cetera. I would love for you to have a conversation with them and say, have you thought about actually how you proposition this market in terms of providing machines, not just a special keyboard, but a whole machine that will be, that
exactly.
I think that would be a great conversation. I'd love to know from your blog. I'll subscribe to your blog if you have that conversation. What comes out of it? Because I think it would be very interesting.
I would too. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh. Go ahead.
I just had a suggestion for everybody. Not really a question, but for me, I've had two experiences just lately dealing with older crowds and technology. I did a website that I was really excited about. I showed my in-laws, who are both 60 and 61. I was really excited about it. I thought I did a good design on the design, or a good job on the design. And my father-in-law looks at it and he squints and he's like, "What? What does it say?" I mean, to me, I have good eyes. So for me, a small text size allows me to put more on the screen.
That's why one of the really important things is that shows you in this interactive, the aging simulator that I showed you, the other website, is the first website that had everything wrong, had all the news in the middle, and there were about 6 headlines with short excerpts from it. When they got all done changing it to be better for elders, there were only 2 stories in the middle with bigger headline and bigger text with the blurb before you click over. Another one important is the initial banner at the top is a very, very busy photograph with the name across it. Take that away, and they just had a little, I think, beach at the bottom and blue sky. Now you could read this. It's really hard, and why that's important, it's hard for someone your age. It was for anybody your age, me too when I was young, sorry, to know what it's like. And as you get older, it comes on you gradually. It's not one day you wake up and can't read the small print. Well, it is actually 40. 40, all of a sudden, you can't read the phone book anymore, but then we don't need the phone book, do we? But it really does happen at about 40. But then, as I was explaining about the glasses that I had yellowed, that I passed out, less light starts going into your eyes, even without cataracts. So besides it might not being bright enough, if it's white on black background, that sort of thing, the same amount of light doesn't come off the screen into my eyes that comes into yours. So it's best to work with them from the beginning, or find an elder to work with when you're designing, so that you can balance between young people on the site and old people who would be using the site. It expands your audience if you can make it work for old people too.
the other thing I wanted to say is my grandfather just moved out from California, so I'm now getting the opportunity to spend more time with him on a daily basis. He's turning 80 next month. And I asked him, he knows that I work on the web, and he knows that what the internet can do, but he never knew what it could do for him. So to get him online, I tried to make it relevant for him, so I know he's into stocks.
Right.
I asked him one day, I said, hey, Gramps, how do you check your stocks? He actually calls his broker, he called his broker every day and ran through the 10 stocks he owns. I told him about Google Finance and then showed it to him, and it was just freaking amazing. I mean, he was so excited. So I just want to challenge everybody, if you want to get your elderly, family member or whoever involved in technology, make it relevant to them. And like the other things, it opens now. So now it opens up. He asked me what I do, in my daily life. It makes our relationship better. So it
Absolutely.
goes to what you were talking about. Like,
Yes.
Are you familiar with Geriatric 1927 on YouTube?
Yes,
the
yes,
Englishman.
Peter.
Yeah. Amazing.
I've forgotten his last
Amazing.
name.
Amazing.
I haven't looked in a couple months. Is he still recording those things?
He is. Yeah.
Fabulous.
So it's just great to see when they're given the tool how far they take it and how much richer it is. Because I remember when I first started watching him, it was like just watching my grandfather tell stories about World War II. It was amazing. So.
And I think this is important historically. What were the times back then? Sooner or later, everybody wants to know what it was like in the olden days, And we can tell our stories. And it's very important for elders to tell their stories as they get older and closer to death. You want to give your life some form. And what was it about? And those stories are really important. Anything?
Way in back here. We're in the middle, way back. Sorry. Hi. Hi.
Okay.
Hi. So I made this point last year, and I'm going to make it again this year. My grandmother, who's now almost in her 90s, is online as much as I am. And I'm online every day because I work in technology. She's online every day playing bridge online. And my point in saying this is not just that elders are in fact using computers all the time. She has a Mac. She calls me up every now and then for help, but she pays people to help her also when it breaks. But the point is that she's using it not to talk only with her family and with people her age, but she's playing in a public games forum with people
On the
of all
internet,
ages.
nobody knows you're a dog.
Exactly. And so I think one of the things to keep in mind is that it's not that there is an age-centric web, though we often talk as if there is. It's that you can be involved by interests, by hobbies,
Absolutely.
by passions, and
Absolutely.
those transcend ages. And I also would point out, I'm in the rare advantage of being the third generation in my family to use technology extensively, but increasingly people across generations are going to have had deep experience, and not everyone who is in the boomer generation or before actually doesn't have experience. My grandfather does writes software on his computer to test out things. So,
I think that the more elders we can bring online, and because on the internet nobody knows you're a dog, there's less ageism about it if you don't want to tell your age. I want to tell my age. I want people who leave comments on my blog to give their age. I think that the more I say I am 66 years old, and Millie says she's 81, about to be 82, and so on, people get used to hearing that. There's nothing wrong with being old. It is not an illness. And that's one of my big things that I'm pushing. But one of the things I'm inordinately proud of is that about 10 or 15% of my readers are under 30. I don't know why, I don't know what I'm doing, but they read my blog. And there's so much, there are lots of looking up health information among the elders who are online. A lot of shopping. This is another great thing for elders who can't get around so easily, that you can do so much shopping on the web. I can get around fine, and I do more and more shopping on the web just because it's easier, But you make a terrific point. Hi.
This is actually Stan from Legit. We exchanged
Oh,
emails.
afterwards, come see
Only
me.
a drink, right? My parents just embarked on a large project of my dad is scanning all his old slides and photos. They recognize
That's how I
this-
started.
Right, exactly. And my mom is typing in her grandmother's diary, trying. They recognize this. It needs to be in digital form, and that this is important. So, sort of two questions. First, they're kind of frustrated. There's no real services for helping them, or a place where they should put this information. They just kind of know it should be digital. And
There
second-
are some, and I'll tell you about them.
Great. And second, just your thoughts on, I'm kind of more aware because of them of, you know, my blogging and Twittering and Flickr photos that this is my legacy, you know, and
That's
how,
right.
how is that going to work, and your bigger thoughts on, you know, moving forward, what becomes of all this content we're creating.
And this is the last question, Ronnie.
Okay. I started like your grandparents because I had all these old photos that were moldering around in boxes, and so I bought a scanner and put them online, and I took them to work to get the designers there who knew more about Photoshop to help me repair some of them, and they kept saying, put these online, with the little stories I had. So I did in, what was it called, Photolog.net, which was a precursor of Flickr that didn't make it. And then what happened is the stories got longer and longer, so I started the blog. But I think that people who are younger, you're going to have a whole, I mean, I think you need to edit, okay? But you're gonna have your whole life there in a way that I don't. I mean, I got very lucky in that I wrote to my great aunt for 25 years every week of my life. And on my 40th birthday, I went to visit her, and she handed me a big box, and she said, these are all your letters. And I had poured my heart out to her for 25 years about everything good and bad. But now you can keep diaries, whether it's a blog or a personal diary, and photos to go with them, exchanges of email. I save all my email. I've not read any of it yet, but I keep thinking I will. I'll probably die without having done it. But, you know, it seems to me that there's, well, maybe there could be software. I'm a big proponent of doing it yourself, you know, how would you like all of this material arranged, and what are you going to keep, and what are you going to edit out? But what a marvelous, marvelous, a better memory of your life younger people are going to have than I did. Unless I had a photo of the kind you had to take to the drugstore to have processed, I think that there are incidents in my life I don't remember. When I put together my timeline of all these photos, I'd look at a photo I hadn't seen in years. Oh, I remember this or that. And then the next photo was 2 years later. What happened in between? I don't think I can remember, you know? So you're going to have so much more. I think your bigger problem is going to be editing it. Did that answer your question? That's it then. Thank you.
Thank you. Am I up? Maybe I'm up. All right, moving right along.